Today we have a special video, a very special one, because we're going to be talking about this right here. That's right, VR. Now, I've mentioned before that one of the things that I do the most from a professional perspective is VR stuff. We do VR stuff for museums, we do VR stuff for the manufacturing industries, for the education system, so we do a lot of VR development. This is what I've been doing since like 2019. And today, I want to show you a little bit of the process. Welcome to Shape Labs, my friends. This is the VR software that I've been talking about, which is one of the tools that we use normally for development, and it allows us to really see how things are going to look once we do the final development for the stuff at the museums. So here what I'm going to show you real quick is, or actually I'm going to do real quick, is I'm going to change a couple of options. So I'm going to go to the environment, and I usually like working on this grand hall right here. Makes me feel like an old sculpture, sculpturer. Like someone who's working on in a museum, actually. So yeah, this is what we're gonna do, and I'm also gonna go here to my options, and I'm gonna import an image, which is the one that we're gonna be using as a reference. So we're gonna be doing a gargoyle today, and one of the cool things about this is that it applies not only to let's push this all the way back there for now. All of the principles that we normally have or do within the digital sculpting world applies to this software as well. The movement and the like sort of like a configuration is very simple. The interface is beautiful because it allows you to do things very quickly. For instance, here I'm just gonna start with symmetry, and as you can see, I can already start like working on the symmetry here or on the shapes of my character. So I'm gonna start with the blocking. I really like that one right there. Let me show you exactly which one I mean. Hey guys, before we continue, one very important announcement. Our friends at Shape Labs are giving away 2 free licenses, perpetual licenses for their software, both the VR version and the desktop version. They're included in the same license, and you can win it very easily. You just need to subscribe to this channel and give us a like and comment what is your favorite part of the 3D process. Just share with us down here in the comments what your favorite part of the 3D process is, and you can be winning one of these 2 completely free licenses, perpetual licenses for Shape Labs. The winners will be decided via a raffle. We're going to be doing this live on November 1st along with our Creatures Unleashed contest. So if you're going to be watching that, you're going to see who is the winner of these 2 licenses right here. Make sure to follow, leave a like, and share a comment about your favorite part of the 3D world to get a chance at winning one of these licenses. Let me change this to raycast. So that one right there, I really like the pose. I really like a griffin, so we're going to be combining a little bit of everything. We're going to keep it symmetrical, although I really like the sharp edges that this one has right there. So again, we're going to take a little bit of inspiration from all of them. So let's focus on first, like blocking in the general pose of our gargoyle here. And what I want to do is I'm going to go to scene mode. I'm going to go to create objects. I'm going to create a very basic like square right here. Oh, this is great, which is like a platform. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to just set it right there. I'm going to now go to sculpting mode, to the options right here. And I'm going to go to the transform options. I'm going to reset this so that plane is aligned to the world. So as you can see, that sort of like flat plane is now perfectly aligned to the world. And what we can do is I can go to translate and just move this down. And I'm going to go to the options right here on the on this thing. There we go. And that plane right there, which is this square, I'm gonna lock it. I don't want to move it because that's gonna help me or serve me as my reference point for all of the things that I'm gonna be positioning. So let's start with this sphere right here. That's gonna be the head. It's gonna be probably a little bit further forward, right around there. I'm gonna go with create object, and I'm gonna create another sphere. I'm gonna have it's definitely gonna be smaller, roughly around there. That's gonna be the chest, or it's gonna help me as my chest. Then I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller, and that's gonna help me as my my hips. So now I'm gonna go back here to the transforms, and I don't want to reset all the locations. I just want to reset location on X so that they're perfectly centered. And of course, I'm gonna go to that one right there, and I'm also gonna reset rotation in X. There we go. Rotation in X. There we go. So as you can see, all of them are in the exact same plane. Not bad. So now what I can do is I can go to Boolean objects, and I'm going to start Booleaning. So this one with this one, join, and then that one with this one, and join. And over here on the geometry options, I'm going to remesh to have them be the same exact element. Now we can start sculpting. Now we can definitely go here and start sculpting because we have a very basic sort of like idea of where these things are going to be. Let me go back with this one, just isolate. You can click on this and just bring them forward to have it closer to us. And yeah, this is one of the things that I love. Like, you can have this exactly on the background there. gonna have it right there, I think. That's gonna give me a good effect so that I can see both of the elements right here. So jumping back on this one, oh, very careful there. So we do want to keep things completely centered, so, oh, not that one. There we go. We're going to make sure that this is on the center so that when we turn on symmetry, symmetry works. So I'm going to go with clay here, and let's just start sculpting again the main masses. So since these are already voxelized together, they're pretty much merged together, it's going to be very, very easy to just smooth things down. And look at that super nice sort of like curved shape that we have there on the back of the gargoyle. So that's what I'm going to go for. So I'm going to push this right here. Start smoothing. It's kind of like creating like a bean shape here for our gargoyle. And we're gonna create a very nice curvature. I do like that long neck that he has. We definitely need to carve out a little bit of the area here from the neck. So I'm gonna switch this to negative and just start carving out. Now this software, if you've never heard of it before, it works very similar to any other traditional digital sculpting software, but one of the big advantages that it has is, for instance, by default, we're going to be working with these voxels. So as we add or remove geometry, it will add or remove points, right? Like the wireframe, the resolution of your object is going to be changing in real time. Very similar to, I think, oh, what's the name in Blender? In ZBrush it's like Sculptris. In Blender it's like Dyntopo. I think it's called Dyntopo in Blender. There we go. Smooth this out a little bit right there, and now let's give the head a little bit of a better shape. So I mentioned I wanted to do like a griffin, so I'm gonna grab my move brush here. There we go. Let's start giving us. Griffins usually have like this interesting ears to go back like that. And it's a matter of just, whoa, polishing some of this right here. I want to be a little bit sharp like this one right here. So one of the things that I love about this process is that we're actually seeing, again, in like actual perspective and in actual 3D, how the elements are going to look. So we can very, very nicely adjust the different options that we have right here. For instance, here with trim, and I can decide how I want the depth of the object to be. I'm going to use now clay. I'm going to make this very, very small. I'm going to invert this to generate the eye socket, or where I would imagine the eye socket to be. Just going to be like roughly around there. I don't like these things, to be honest, so I'm going to remove them for now. We're going to have the arms coming from this area right here, so I can already sort of like position the deltoid muscles. Now griffins are a little bit different because griffins, as you can see, are four-legged, right? Like they're like a dog or like a cat. So the legs are a little bit different than that one right there. So the anatomy might also change a little bit. So we're probably going to be referencing that one there on the top corner for the elements. As you can see, my hips here are way too far forward. So I'm going to use trim again to just push this in, and then I'm going to use move to create that sort of like curvature that we have right there. So something like this, and then we can create the hips of the griffin back here. It's still going to be sitting, so you can see that the legs go forward a little bit in this area, right? And then they go back in like a 90-degree angle, so like this. Set a little bit more movement there, and then as you can see, the feet go forward. So this one's gonna go forward here. We can use inflate, for instance, to really give this a little bit more volume. And remember, this is just the base mesh of the whole thing. The arms I'm actually going to do as a separate piece, and the reason why I'm going to do that is to have a little bit more control, and then we're going to merge everything together. But you can already see how the arms are going to go from here to the wall, right? Now on the back, we definitely need to add a little bit more volume. So I'm going to strengthen this a little bit more. There's a tail. I'm not sure if we're going to add the tail or if I want to cover it with wings. Because I really like one of the, like that little dove right there that has the wings sort of like coming out and sort of like merging back, kind of like a shell. I kind of like that. So over on this side, we'll have like the ribcage border. And all of the muscles that we normally talk about, right? Like the latissimus dorsi would be right there. Pectoral would be right there. We'll have some sort of like clavicles right here. I know the anatomy of a griffin might not be exactly the one for a human. There might be some similarities. And one thing that we can add is, of course, the sort of like feathery wings, right, that he has, or feathers that he has here on the chest. So I'm going to use clay here just to give a rough sketch of how we would expect the the feathers to look, just to give me a little bit of texture right there. Because remember that on the beginning stages of any sculpture, any digital or physical sculpture, the most important thing is being able to capture the silhouette and being able to capture the forms and being able to make sure that we're going in the right direction. It would be very, very bad for me, pretty much, if I started working on details such as wrinkles and actually, you know what? The trim dynamic brush here is very, very strong. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to use press sensitivity for the trim dynamic, so that the amount of like strength that I use on the trigger also impacts on how much we're actually modifying. There we go. So yeah, as I was saying, like, it's very important that we always focus on the basic shapes first, and then we focus on the on the details. Because if we focus on the details first and we don't have a good form, a good primary forms, good secondary forms, then everything just is not going to look good. We're going to have a very, very bad result. And that's a very, very common mistake from people who are just starting their journey as digital sculptors. They will focus on the wrinkles and the main details, pores and scars and all that kind of stuff, without really paying attention to making sure that their forms are right from the beginning. So let's push this in a little bit, smooth out. It might not be a bad idea to separate the legs as well. So before we continue with the time lapse here, I want to show you there's an option that we can use to mirror something across the element. So I'm going to use the sculpt there as our parent. I'm going to mirror this on the x-axis, and we're going to flip this arm, like this basic arm construction, to the other side. And as you can see, we get this very, very nice effect right there. We can, again, voxel or just like remesh everything so that they're pretty much like combined. And at this point, I can just go back and jump into sculpting, which is gonna allow me to sculpt the arms of the creature. I'm gonna be using some of this arms as reference. I really like, again, this one right there. Now, one thing I really like about this is that I can place this or move this into position where I would expect this to be on a game or something. And it's a good way, again, to really analyze or really get an idea of how it's going to look. You can press both triggers on the controller, by the way, to scale it up or scale it down and get an idea of how it's looking again. I really like this side silhouette right here. We definitely need the wings. I think those are going to really add to the whole character. I can see on the top corner right there on the griffin that the chest actually pushes out a little bit more. So I want to play a little bit with that sort of like silhouette. Because right now he looks a little bit humanoid. So I'm going to push this out. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to combine the arms just yet. Because it's going to give me a little bit more control over this shape right here. But when seen from the side view, I really want to have like a nice curvature, right? Like falling back. But actually, like this ones right here, I really like them as well. Like the wings going up. So let's try a little bit of both. Let's go back to scene mode here, and I'm gonna work with a. Actually, I think this square was actually looking quite nice, because what I can do here is position the wings in this sort of like position right there, and go into sculpt mode, and with my move brush. Right here we either need to mirror this across the planes, which I think is going to be the best option, so that topology can actually work. I'm just going to make sure that those are mirrored. Yeah, they are. Okay, cool. So here again we go into move brush, and I'm now looking at that one right there. So this tip really goes up there. Generates an interesting curvature. We definitely need to, especially if I'm gonna 3D print this one as well. So if we want to 3D print this, we definitely want to inflate this a little bit more. So I'm gonna give those wings a little bit more thickness. I also want to change the position, because here from the front you can see that they don't look as like interesting as they could. So I'm gonna go back to move here. I'm gonna move this one here, go into rotation. I'm gonna rotate it like that, and might even rotate it forward a little bit. There we go. That's way more interesting. And now over here we're going to just apply this changes. There we go. Now we can go back into sculpting, and we can do, you know, again with move brush, just something that looks a little bit more interesting. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, so that when we smooth we get a little bit more resolution. There we go. The connection point is usually small. I'm gonna go with a small connection point there as well. And then they had like this very intense like pointy bits. Oh. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I like this. Again, it's a sort of like a base form or base shape. This looks very nice. I do think they're a little bit too far up on the character. So again, I'm gonna go to this one. I don't think we need to mirror. Should be a matter of just like repositioning them. There we go. And again, when seen from the front, I want to see like a very interesting silhouette. There we go. See that? That's what I'm going for. Silhouette is everything, guys. Like having a good silhouette is gonna really make or break your character. Yeah, I like that. I do feel we need a tail. It looks a little bit weird without the tail. Or we can sort of like cheat our way here a little bit. We could create just like another box so that he sort of like rests on that box, similar to what we see right here and probably right there. See how they have like a yeah, something on the back. Like not all gargoyles have like the full body. I remember did you guys see the movie from the Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? So they didn't even have legs. They kind of like jumped to like to the different places, right? So I'm thinking something like that could work right on this side. Actually, we don't even need to add anything. We can just go into this area right here, and with clay, just sculpt this area. So I'm just gonna add more volume here. More volume, more, and sort of like fade it into stone. It's also gonna save us a little bit of resin on the 3D printing side of things. I kind of want this thing to be like what's the name of those things? I always forget the name of those things that help books not fall over. So I kind of want that to be like that. It's gonna be a little bit difficult, right, with the wings, because the wings are really pushing forward. But yeah, like we could push this ones right here, and the book would be like right here, so like guarding it. So I kind of like that effect. And let's push this. And yeah, there we go. Now let's jump onto the body. And I'm gonna go again into my clay build brush, because I really want to give this again like the little like feathery effect that we have. So we can start like adding a little bit this, of course, on top of the shoulders or going around it. So I'm gonna start adding like this little blobs of clay. And statues, I always say, are really good exercises to learn about digital sculpture, because the sort of like carved effect that you can get is relatively easy to achieve. So if you're trying this one out, which by the way you can check it out, I think right now they have like a discount, so you can check this one right now, and you can practice with your own like sculpture. There we go. See how it starts to sort of like describe this like feathery mane there on the character. Let's go into the arms. At this point, we're going to enter the polish stage, and one of the questions that I get asked the most when I talk about my work as a VR artist, which is again what we normally do on our studio, our main focus on the small indie studio that I have is VR, is whether or not we get tired with the lenses, right, with the headsets. And the answer is no. It's really quite comfortable. A couple of years ago, the first like set that I ever used was the HTC Vive, and that one wasn't indeed a little bit uncomfortable. It was very heavy, and the resolution was not great, so you had to strain your eyes quite a bit. But the new ones like the Meta Quest 3, it's just freaking amazing. So for this one, you can see right here, I'm just working for quite a long time. I have my music going on, and I'm just focusing on polishing all of the elements. Roughly at this stage is where I decided that it was a good idea to start working on some of the actual details of the element, and I found this very nice combination with the clay brush. You can see it right there on the eye, where I'm just doing this sort of like chisel stoned effect, right? So I'm giving a lot of like texture, and it kind of looks to me like I'm actually pushing the fingers into the sculpture, which looks, or I think it looks quite nice, and I'm sure it's gonna look very nice on the 3D print, and it's gonna look very nice on the texture work as well, because later on, as you guys know, we can use things like a metal etchware instead of substance painter or the dirt generators to really go into those crevices and those changes in planes that are happening when we're doing this sort of like effect on the main shape, right? So on this point, or at this point, here's where we can start jumping on what I like to call the second stage of the sculpting process. On the first stage, I focus on main forms, silhouette, and proportions. Once I have that, now we can start working on secondary forms, like the eyelids right here, a little bit of the eyebrows, some of the wing effect that I want to add, or the feather effect that I want to add on the head of the character, the beak, the nostrils. So all of the things that are actually more important when you get close to the element. But one of the things that people forget about, and I'm so sad when this happens, but one of the things that people forget about quite a bit is that most of the time your players, your audience, whoever it is that's like watching your piece won't be seeing it like here, like what we have right here on the VR things. They will see it on the background of your level. They will just go through it as they are fighting the boss or something like that. So not all the time will they really stand still and watch every single detail. That's why the first fundamental parts of the process, primary forms, secondary forms, proportion, silhouette, are more important than this stage right here, which is the detailing pass. Now, I was able to work, and one of the things that I love about Shapelabs is that I don't need to be like changing the resolution constantly. It adapts, so I just make my brush smaller, I add details where I want to, I modify this things here. As you can see here, or in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to be adding the tail as well. I know we've mentioned that, hey, should we add the tail, should we not add the tail? And at the end I decided, yeah, it's gonna be a good idea to really add the tail to the character. But yeah, that's pretty much it. At this point, again, this was like a 40-50 minute session of just me sculpting and polishing all of the different parts of the character. And one thing that I do want to again clarify is that you need to save. There's a quick save feature available. I forgot to save during this. I should have saved. Fortunately, it didn't crash. I haven't had that many crashes. I think I just had one crash, and they did hotfix this very recently on the new October update that they had. So yeah, very stable software as well. It allows me to just sculpt and be creative. It's a very fun process. You can do this standing up. In this case, I'm sitting down. You can do this tethered. So let me show you here. Normally, I have this like cable right here that goes into my visor. So you can do this with a cable going to your computer, or if you have a strong or fast enough Wi-Fi, especially a router. If you have a router that can do like 5G Wi-Fi or it's 5G, I believe. like the 5G frequency or whatever, it should be fast enough so that you can stream from your computer through your local Wi-Fi network and receive the information. I was doing that yesterday while doing some tests, and it was working again perfectly fine. So yeah, there's the tail. It definitely adds to the silhouette, cleaning up right there. And then in this next stage that we're about to jump to, we're going to be working on polishing a little bit more of the base, because the base is definitely one of those parts that's important. It gives a nice sort of like effect to the whole thing, and that way we're going to be able to place this guy on top of a building, on top of a wall, on top of I don't know, like some sort of like fortification, and the base will serve as a sort of like anchor point to make sure that it's always flat against whatever ground we're like setting it up against. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Again, this was another sort of like 40 minutes of time-lapse work here for the Griffin Gargoyle here on ShapeLab. So let's go to the next part. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scale this a little bit more. So I'm going to go to scale, make it a little bit bigger so that the character is actually on top of it. Bring it back up, and this is for 3D printing and also for retopology, because I'm going to be pretty much retopologizing everything from this base. So we're going to start with a square base, and then we're going to have that. And I'm going to place a new object. I'm going to place another square. It's definitely going to be way bigger. And I want the scale on Y to be a little bit bigger as well. So probably a little bit less on scale. It's going to be like a little platform, right? Let's make it actually a little bit bigger. So something like that. Of course, we go to transforms and we center this. There we go. And now we just position this right there. Awesome. So this one right here, I'm actually going to go into sculpt mode, and we're going to remesh. Okay, so now it's pretty much like if we gave it like a birds here or texels. And I'm going to, of course, give it a little bit of... Whoop. I'm going to turn off symmetry on this one. So no symmetry. And with trim additive, or in this case trim remove, I'm just going to start giving this a little bit of a stone look. So like wearing out the edges, especially the ones on the top. I might heat the ones on the bottom a little bit, but again, since we're going to 3D print this, I don't want to destroy too much of the flat surface that we have on the bottom there. Go. It might not be a bad idea. Oh, wait a second. Can you see that? So it seems like this one's a little bit rotated. No problem. We're going to go back to scene. And here on transforms, let's make sure that this is reset on the transform right there. Just push it down. There we go. So I'm going to go to the other one right here, this one. And the reason why I want to remesh it is because now I also want to give it a little bit of a sculpt to that one. So I'm going to go clay. You know, and add a little bit of a base, similar to, again, if this was sculpted from an actual stone. We're gonna have a little bit of roughness here, close to the character. We're following again a very sort of like sculptural approach. Now, whenever you're doing this kind of stuff, it's very important that you always take into account all of the different surfaces. Like, you don't want to have like a very clean surface and then a very sort of like ugly surface. So if you're going to be doing this kind of details, you should be very mindful of hitting pretty much every part. Now, there's a very important concept that we like to call rest areas, which are areas where there's not going to be too much damage. So on this sort of like upper platform where the character is actually embedded into, I'm going to be going a little bit crazier with the damage. But then on the next one, I am going to add a little bit of damage, but not too much, just a little bit here and there to make it look a little bit cleaner, and so that we have again this sort of like a rest areas. This is going to be helpful both for texturing and for 3D printing, because when you're watching a sculpture, if everything is very noisy, it becomes very difficult to sort of like understand what's going on. So it's important that there's some areas that are not as intense as others. Let's go back to this one, for instance. And again on this one, yes, I'm gonna sort of like damage a little bit of this stone right here. But first of all, it's not going to be symmetrical, the damage that we're going to be adding. And second of all, it's not going to be everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to keep it relatively clean here. That's going to make it... It's going to make a more interesting, more natural effect on the whole thing. I really like this clay build up here. because it just like works very, very nicely. As you can see, it sort of like keeps a layer, so it allows me to do this very like nice damage without too much complication. Doing this in other softwares can be a little bit difficult sometimes. Now, I'm gonna keep working on this guy a little bit more, my friends. I wanna make sure that this is looking as nice as possible before we jump onto the next stages. So the order in which we're gonna be doing the next stages are, we're gonna first prepare this for 3D print, because with this, like once we have the high poly ready, we're ready to jump and 3D print this. Like we really don't need to do anything like special. And then after that, we're gonna go into the video game production pipeline, which is gonna involve retopology, it's gonna involve texturing, and then we're gonna get it into Unreal Engine. I do want to make something clear. I want to make sure that this video is, of course, fun to watch. So it would be very, very difficult for me to record the whole process, because it's going to take like quite a couple of hours. This whole process is probably going to be like 10-12 hours in total. So I'm going to be showing you just the principles of the retopology process and the UV process and texture process. I want to show you the full process, so you're going to see a time lapse, and I'm just going to be talking over it, of course, having fun. So if you're liking the video so far, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know if you want to see more of this VR sculpting process, which is, again, very, very fun. I'm really, really thinking about doing a live stream for you guys. So if that's something that's interesting for you, let me know, and we can plan something out. So that's it for this first part, my friends. Again, as I mentioned, in the next couple of days, I'm going to be releasing part number 2, where I'm going to show you the remaining part of the process. If you've ever wondered like how things are made for all of the games and stuff that we normally consume, well, this is the first step, generating the base mesh, the main forms, or as we know it, the high poly, so that we can then transfer all of that stuff into the next stage. We're going to be going over retopology, we're going to be doing UVs, we're going to be doing texturing, and I'm going to show you how this looks inside of Unreal Engine, as well as how it looks, of course, 3D printed. Now, I'm going to continue working on this little sculpt a little bit more, so I'm going to just finish a couple of polish passes here and there. But yeah, this is pretty much it. Don't forget that if you're watching this video right around where it released, we are giving away 2 licenses for ShadeLab, thanks to our friends at ShadeLabs, of course. So you just need to write a comment down here. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'll see you back on the next one.